And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This Vlogcast starts a combination of spite and the Streisand because we're sick and tired of you, Logitech. You keep changing all the designs and everything. And the microphones on your cameras, they suck, all right? Just want to go ahead and say it. They suck. And I'm going to say why. 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 Because on mine, I have a microphone on this side and a microphone on this side. Why do I need on a webcam stereo separation of my voice when I'm right in front of it?
Because Google Hangouts is no longer a thing and OBS with Discord just suck. That's the long and short of it.
And part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble. And you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's S-H-U-J-I-N. Hi. Those of you on video might realize things are a little bit different at the moment. I'll explain as we get along.
Maybe.
Below me on video, and also from the right-hand coast of the U.S., where things are interesting times, the Chinese have put it. UnrenownedTech, good morning.
Hello.
And
good morning.
And over to the, depending as to which way you're looking on the screen, I believe it's to the left of me or to the right. I don't know. I don't know which way it is on video right now.
From what I'm seeing in the video, it looks like she's to the left.
I'm to the left. That sounds about right.
So over there. In
the
wait, hold on. I'm sorry.
Great and deep of the solid Midwest, where frozen is still the way to go. Brigid Fitch gets to show up. Hi.
Hi, everybody. And I'm going to do the proper introduction here after Shujin does.
What now?
Okay. I'm going to just share a little couple of things with everybody because it's been a while. My beverage of choice this evening, I was very, very conflicted here. You know, it's just hard to just pick just one. So this evening I have some orange and spice tea. And, oops, I just made a mess. And I just opened this. This is strawberry soda. It's Dare's. It's a local brand.
Dare's.
I haven't had a good strawberry soda in a long time.
I know, this is wonderful, and I have a special red tumbler for it that I keep.
I'm sorry.
That looks like every Coke glass from every bowling alley that served pizza and had a fountain ever.
I have no more. Those got broken when Beck lived here.
No.
Destroyed shit. Yes,
No.
did.
No. That is not what that is, Tech. That was stolen when Pizza Hut went out of business. I dare you to tell me that I'm wrong.
Do you know that Pizza Hut in China serves fried rice, cheeseburgers, steak, and a pizza that has durian on it?
What?
Yes.
You know what they used to sell at Pizza Hut in the UK that I thought was kind of interesting?
And we thought we were fancy with salad bars.
Well, yeah, I do kind of miss salad bars. Those were cool. In the UK, at least around 1987 and 8-ish, menus from Pizza Hut in the UK had pizzas with, wait for it, prawns, corn, and what was the other topping? It was prawns, corn, and something else that was really bizarre. And I went, on a pizza?
Would it perhaps be potato and mayonnaise?
No.
Because
it was definitely prawns and kernel corn. I don't remember the third ingredient, but I was like,
the only time I've had corn on pizza where it was actually good was where they had fire roasted the corn. And
well,
it was a vegetarian-based pizza with other vegetables that complemented the flavor of the corn. That's the only time.
But in 1987, people weren't foodies back then. I'm just saying.
No.
It's all right.
Fire roasted anything didn't exist. It wasn't even a thought. Unless you were like, I don't know, native to Mexico or something.
Some mayonnaise.
Well,
I'd like to try some spotted dick just because the name is funny.
My kid likes it, partly because it's funny as hell, but it is actually apparently tasty to him. Doesn't agree with me.
Oh.
And the whole mayonnaise, potato, corn, and I forget what the last item was, toppings as far as pizza was concerned. When my wife and I were in Japan, we did do this. We did try this because this was a thing. And I can honestly say I would never willingly choose it for myself, but I am still alive. Thank you very much. Good evening. It's nice to be with you all.
I don't think I'd like that on a pizza either, but I could see putting it into a bowl with some butter and running with it.
You might, Rabbit.
It's a southern thing. You wouldn't understand.
You're probably right. So, thanks for joining us, everybody. If you would like to be joining us, of course, as we are recording live, feel free to do so over there on YouTube. Most weekends we are here, and I say that because I've had a couple of weeks, unfortunately, where it's just not worked out for me. When you wake up on a Saturday morning, wonder why your alarm didn't go off and get yourself ready for work, only to realize, oh wait, yeah, it's Saturday morning. Didn't I do a Friday night show last night? I think I did, didn't I? What day is it? And then look at your phone and go, oh, it is Saturday. I'm not going to work today, and go back to bed.
I've done that.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever done that. So my apologies for not having, every weekend covered. Sorry,
I did
just the way it is.
Actually get my days mixed up years ago and was extremely late for work, which is not like me, but for some reason I had it in my head it was Saturday. Didn't have the alarm off and it was still actually Friday. Oops. But at least my manager was very understanding and knew my work habits, and that was just a one-off. It's
Fair
going
enough.
in a book or a journal.
Cool. So, if you'd like to be joining us, of course, you can be part of the festivities by being part of the live chat over there. So, thank you for being there. Io, of course, is over in the chat, or at least will be for a little while, feeling a little under the weather and voice is not there. So, thank you. Glad you're able to be there, even for a little bit. You go rest up when you have to, hon. Don't stand on ceremony for us. Don't worry about it.
Are you saying Io has to be quiet?
I'm saying Io doesn't have a choice. It's not a matter of has to, is simply because. So, of course, as always, thank you, Stephanie, Drew, welcome. Who else is over here? Witness protection?
Who's witness protection? What the
Well,
hell?
obviously somebody from Ohio, but of course we have no idea who that is because they're in witness protection. So that's kind of the way that it works.
I remember the first shirt I saw making fun of witness protection. It said witness protection, and underneath it said, "You don't know me."
Fair enough. And Drew
I've
Wolf,
got a
see you over there.
t-shirt too, and I'm gonna tell you what it says. You want to guess?
What does it say?
Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, does not exist.
No, the CIA exists. It's the
No, it doesn't.
NSA. I think it's
the CIA does not exist. And no, we are not CIA. We're redacted, damn it.
well, birds
know
aren't
this.
real either. So I mean, whatever. It's all fine.
It
It's all good.
depends on what kind.
Yeah, it's true.
Dodos no longer exist, deal.
Fair. So, how about I get everything working over here, because now's about the time for me to get everything started over here. I've got to rearrange all the stuff there on the screen, so thanks for being with us. So let's get everything started. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle is now. Perseverance. I'm going to point something out for some folks who are going to suddenly think, oh shit, why don't I have gray hair like everybody else at this point? It's kind of a dig at myself, for a change. For those of you that might remember, once upon a time ago, there was a rover that was sent to Mars, named Perseverance. And one of the things that it did, besides land safely on Mars, which, believe it or not, is actually kind of a big deal, because it doesn't happen quite that way every time, it also brought with it a little rechargeable helicopter. It's the cutest little thing, counter-rotating blades, and instead of having just 3 flight missions, it had a lot of them until it landed hard and then broke at least one of its rotors, or propellers, at which point they basically back home said, yeah, no, she's not moving anymore. She's going to stay there, and she's going to be just a weather station. Take samples of the atmosphere and, send it back. Perseverance itself, the actual rover, has continued on. And it still continues on. It took a little over a year for it to get from Earth to Mars, which, about average speed. I mean, all things considered. But it's been there. It's been there and doing its mission and its extended mission for over 4 years. It's roughly 4 years and a month, give or take, at the time of our recording. But it's there. It's there, and it's amazing. It's about the size of a car, a small car, but I mean a car, like a Mini Cooper. It's a hell of a lot bigger than I thought it was. But by its name, it has continued to chug along, and it's still doing its work. Now, what has that got to do with us? Like I said, it's been going for 4 years. 4 years plus. And it's still going. It doesn't exactly have a head to pick up, so to speak. I mean, it kind of does. But that's a sensor platform, which I guess you could anthropomorphize it as being its head, although its brain is actually in its body. Our main sensory input device is our head, and its brain is, well, the brain. We can do the same damn thing. The big difference, of course, is that we don't exactly have wires, although we kind of do. We don't run on electricity, although we do. But we've also got something that helps in a huge way. We have each other. Now, we know full well it's been not even 2 months into this regime. No, I refuse to call it anything other than. It's not an administration. That would imply that there was some thought going into it, some planning that made sense. What we're dealing with is a regime, and we know it. And the rank and file Joe average people of this country are not the ones who are the biggest problem. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of us who are just the John Q. Publics out here who are a problem. 70 plus million of them out there who decided that vitriol was the name of the game. That twisting and corrupting and perverting every norm was the way to go. Just to spite everyone else. Because pain is the only thing that matters. But those of us who are going to make it through, maybe we can't pick up our head enough. Maybe we can't exactly fight back with everything that we've got tooth and nail. But we can, together, persevere. There is safety, there is comfort, and there is protection in numbers. Let us be here to help you. The same way that we're going to trust for you to be here to help us. with that out of the way, let me regrid the video. There we go. I'm going to get really sick and tired of that. For those of you that don't know, over in Discord, you can change the video layout for a video call to a degree. You can either have one person as big as everything and then everybody else in a smaller section on the bottom, which is usually the way that we run it, because normally we don't have any more video than just me. But then apparently Discord has never upgraded the way that you can organize a video call. So you can't just grab somebody's video window and move it and reorganize it all. Because I went looking for information and found Reddit threads and support threads from 6 years ago. Oh, it's something we're looking into working on. I'm sorry. I've got fingers that would like to have a word with you and your development team. I understand that we don't pay for it, but I mean, guys, come on. It shouldn't be terribly difficult. So, it is what it is.
I'm with you on that one because, Discord is supposed to be a gamers communication platform.
Yep.
Originally, much like Twitch, but not monetized, except for the whole Nitro system. And honestly, I would have imagined that by now they would have had at least half of some of that stuff embedded in their system. But nope. We still don't have a lot of things. But we'll make do. Because, you get what you pay for.
Yes, we will. And, sorry, something I just had to get taken care of over there. I will deal with that in due course. So let's deal with the stuff that we can deal with, which is the horrible scopes. So, for those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool. Those of you that don't, you can make it up as you go along. Open up a playing card set or rock, paper, scissors. Ask Google to pick one for you. Or you get yourself a D12 with the symbols on it and roll it out. And you can have a new one every week. It really won't change anything, but what the hell. And if you need one of those D12s, you can get in touch with the guys that like us over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. They'll be more than happy to sell it to you. You might even be able to get it shipped, maybe, depending as to where you live. Maybe they'll just launch it on a rocket and drop it, airdrop it, airmail it. I don't know. They haven't let me know how to work that yet. You can ask them. So get in touch with the nice folks over there at Heart of the Game Fredonia. Hail, hail, Fredonia, home of the Blue Devil. Okay, so we've discussed the mimic in the window over there at Heart of the Game, and I actually had a quick talk with the proprietor over there about it. He had a good laugh because I called him. I said, I was going to be talking about the mimic, and I needed some information. So it seems only fair that this week we explain a little bit about the mimic while we give you your star-inspired purposes for the week. So get ready to learn a little bit more than you ever want to do about, that. Aries, after careful consultation with the Mimic Wrangler at Heart of the Game, yes, that is his official title. Now, because I just gave it to him, the Mimic's name isn't something that we can give you, mostly because it hasn't been identified by a name as yet. So officially its name is legally Mimic, the. So this week, don't get upset when someone forgets your name. It's far more important that they remember who you are and how nice you are to them. Until and unless a Klingon opera is written about you, it's really not nearly as important as you might think.
Taurus, regarding the Mimic's possible name, one of its cousins is named Squamoosh. There are questions as to where this name comes from, especially considering this one seems to hail from China. its preferred form is an oversized black and white furred biped, walking around eating everything it can get away with while repeating its name. So this week, ramen. Good quality ramen. It's a wonderful meal. Imagine the best chicken noodle soup you've ever had. Now throw that away because it's not nearly close enough in yummy fact. Make yourself some ramen for dinner this week and do not follow Jamie Oliver's recipes. They
Yeah,
suck.
yeah, no.
No, don't do
You
that.
you could follow the instructions on a packet of ramen and
Hmm.
just put a fried egg on top, and it
And be
will
better off.
instantly be better than anything Jamie Oliver has ever done.
The idea that
Fair.
Jamie Oliver decided that his grilled cheese needed kimchi in it should tell you everything you should ever need to know.
Don't
Okay,
eat it.
first off, I've had a Korean style grilled cheese that had kimchi in it made by a Korean family, and it was very, very good if you are a fan of kimchi, which I am. And this was homemade
Mm,
kimchi. This was not
mm,
store bought. So it was amazing. And it was by a group of people who know how to make that stuff. Buying store bought stuff and doing it Jamie Oliver's way, that's disgusting.
yeah.
Gemini, yeah, Gemini, you might not know it, but mimics aren't instinctual predators. Sure, they want to eat something that gets close, but they also know how to comport themselves in a way that's mutually beneficial. Take, for example, the story of the mimic that took the shape of a table at an adventurer's tavern. It thought it would be able to get a good meal by just waiting, but it ended up drunk from all the wine spilled on it. After it sobered up, it ate the leftovers on its top, cleaning the room for the tavern owner. No one knew until months and years later that all the new chairs and tables were its well behaved children. So this week, don't seek out recognition for something you did well. Just know that what you did helped others and they are grateful no matter what.
Cancer Moonchild,
Go ahead.
did you know that wine is, for some mimics, a form of currency?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can bribe some mimics with wine. Now, this isn't like throwing a Molotov cocktail at it. You need to hold up a clear glass bottle, pitch it side to side, and announce that you have wine for it. Now, there are two ways that this is going to go. Either the mimic will open its mouth and drop its tongue so that you can lob it in, or it'll charge after you again. So this week, keep on your toes, plan for the best, and expect the worst. In other words, keep a molly in reserve just in case. Figuratively speaking, of course.
I've never had one. I don't have a clue. Leo, it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while you can find the mimic in the library at the local college. It doesn't show up often and not obviously during the school year, but during orientation, when all the new visitors are milling about, you'll notice it creeping along in the shady areas. It's not trying to get away from the loudest people, it's just trying to get closer. Because when it attacks, the sounds will just be more of the same and no one will think to check it out. So this week, stealth is your friend. You don't have to try hard at it. Just make sure you don't make any crass sounds.
Virgo, following up on that idea, did you know that mimics can speak? Just when you thought they were bothersome enough, try to imagine one of them with just enough intelligence to properly speak the words to an incantation. Maybe along, maybe along with all the things it's accumulated, it has the material components for certain spells too. How dangerous would it be when your party's fireball is met with an equal but opposite fireball? What then? So this week, ask your local dungeon master what would happen if a mimic launched a fireball into an oncoming fireball. Then ask how many hit dice of damage the room can sustain before structural collapse. Good luck on your cleric saving throws.
Yeah, unless your clerk has taken an elective in structural formations, I don't think that's going to happen.
But see, here's the thing.
Mhm.
I want to warn the general public. If you ask this question of your local dungeon master and they have not already thought of this, you have just given them fuel for the fire. Good luck.
Quite
I'll
literally.
add this little bit too. Having played a battle cleric, I can tell you from firsthand experience, if you are not able to keep aggro, I'm going to let your ass die. You get one chance. If it's a repeat, you're dead. I'm not creeping with you ever again.
Good call. Libra. Mimics have a nasty habit of being something other than treasure chests, you know. Like we mentioned before, they could be furniture, or maybe a painting, or worse yet, dice. We're not sure if the D12s from Heart of the Game are mimic eggs or not, but the Mimic Wrangler doesn't seem to think that's a likely possibility. He even laughed at it when I mentioned it. So this week, just because an outcome isn't likely doesn't mean it's impossible. Good luck playing Russian roulette with the expiration date on your milk.
And in that same vein, if you're a gamer or a player or a dungeon master and you have not already heard of it, look up the Curse of the Mimic.
Nah. I've also been an enchanter too, and a wizard who blew up shit. Don't do it. Hey, Scorpio. Mimics are supposed to be masters of imitating things like wood or stone, but what does that actually mean? Could they have imitated medium-large cubes of stone and allowed themselves to be stacked into the walls of a castle? Could there be a nighttime siege where suddenly the entire front of the castle drops to the ground and starts eating all the inhabitants? So this week, imagine the big castle battle from the Lord of the Rings. If the walls were mimics waiting for a chance to feed, who would they attack? Who would be eaten first? How many hours would that add to the movie's running time? Just a thought.
That being said, I have dungeon masters who would argue that it would be impossible for them to actually make that happen unless the mimics were mimicking the blocks at the top, because they would argue that if the mimics were placed at the bottom and the blocks were placed on top, every single turn the mimic would have to roll saving throws to not be crushed until the mortar had set.
It's possible.
Yeah, that checks.
Sagittarius. Oh, let's stop scaring you about what a mimic can do and get to what it can be used for. Yeah, you're thinking along my lines on this one. Officially, they are neutral alignment, neither good nor evil, and we contend that's wrong. We can prove they are some version of good, and it's not a far stretch at all. Mimics can disguise themselves as something potentially valuable and attack someone that tries to steal these valuables for themselves. We contend that makes them good for punishing the greedy. So this week, you're allowed to have a second spoon of sugar in your coffee. Go ahead and indulge just a little bit. You earned it. I'm sorry, but the moment the thought crossed my mind, we contend that makes them good for punishing the greedy, was how can we mail mimics to the frickin' elite of this country?
We already know we're in on the joke.
I was like, does anybody got any spare mimics? Send them to the show. We know what to do with them.
Yeah, and I'm a hardcore gamer and have been since, like, I don't know, 1972-ish or something.
I'll tell you what we need.
I have no clue.
We need someone to design, to be 3D printed, a mimic egg, so that when you twist the top and the bottom in opposite directions, it unfolds into being a mimic.
That would be cool.
That's clever. I
That
I've
would
already
be
seen
great.
people making.
It would be great.
There's a pattern, a crochet or knitting pattern. I know there's a difference between the two, but I can't remember what they are. Anyway, and it allows you to make a mimic plushy chest out of yarn, and it is the most adorable thing ever.
Up
But I
until it
can't
eats your face.
knit. I can't knit. It ties in knots and I get frustrated. So I
That's
used to crochet.
well, that's why I feed it dice so it doesn't eat me. I
Yeah.
keep my mimic well fed. Damn it.
Yeah, I keep dice around myself.
Capricorn, the normal mimic can imitate stone or wood, but what about the metal mimic? Because, yeah, that's a thing too. But just like the tavern mimic, what if this version likes to shape itself into metal weapons, like a sword or a dagger? The only way you'd know it was a thing would be the additional plus onto hit and on damage from it eating your opponent. So this week, if you're a DM and you use this idea in a campaign, we want to know about it.
Yash.
But if you're the one that's adopted this metal mimic sort of feasting, we want to know about it.
Well, if you really want to know about stuff like that, there is literally a book series, a lit RPG genre called Mimic and Me. There's several books already. A guy ends up bonding with a mimic that was going to kill him when his party betrayed him, but he ends up giving it cookies and then promising it cake. And so it bonds with him to save his life, but now they're one entity with two minds. And just wait till you get to the carriage. That's all I'm saying. You gotta read it if you're a DD fan and you love mimics. But you know, if you really want to get somebody who knows all about mimics, especially metal mimics, I think Ozzy Osbourne, being the mother lover Prince of Darkness, would know the most in all sense of the word metal.
It's intentional. That's possible. By the way, the intention of the attack to hit going up higher and higher is because the hungrier it gets, the more it's trying to like get the kill, get the hit, so that it can. I also wanted to put a thing in there that it would like stun and have like a -2 onto hit after a missed attack, because get clanged against stuff. But I not enough time. We'll talk about it later.
But on the other hand, anybody who's played MMORPGs, over the decades, know that you get extra hit point damage from showing your tatas as armor. How that works with an AC, I have no idea. It's just a thing.
It's a thing that goes along with hairspray in the 80s. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, the skimpier the armor for women, the more hit points you could take.
It was created by nerds.
Yeah, true.
It's
That's
created by nerds, and there's plenty of women nerds that love that stuff.
That's
fair.
True. I never played as a male. I think I tried as a barbarian once, but you have to find
come on, boobs are awesome.
If there was a class out there, if there was a class or a race or a profession out there, I wanted one of each and had 2 accounts going at the same time. I was 2-boxing myself. We won't talk about that anymore. We know.
It's your turn.
Oh, yeah. We're on Pisces, right?
No, we're on Aquarius.
No, you're on Aquarius.
I'm lost, as always. Aquarius. It's probably good for us to remind you of something utterly devastating and borderline evil in the truest sense of the term. Have you ever heard of the Curse of the Mimic? Thanks to Hamasamakan on YouTube. Imagine this scenario. 75% of everything non-magical you investigate turns out to be a mimic, which then creates more mimics, and so on, and so on. So this week, stop trying to game the system at work and at play, because this is the result. Learn to play nice, people.
Yeah,
Okay.
nice tech. You kind of led the bit there just a little bit.
Yeah,
Good
you
man.
did.
I didn't. I honestly, I didn't listen to the Friday one.
You stepped
So
right into this tech, and this is a cold read, you know.
for me, it's a cold read. I did not know this.
Me
So,
too. I just got here. I couldn't even open the damn window.
It's true.
This is not the first time I've
True.
had this problem either. Sorry.
I couldn't find the whatever that stick pin was to even open the damn thing.
Yeah, we got
I
you.
just
We got you
Google
covered.
searched the cursor.
She
and then
walked me through it 2 minutes before we went live.
Yeah, we're gonna explain to her what bookmarks are later. So don't worry about it. We've got it.
We're
We got
gonna
it
have a
covered.
tutorial for sure later after the show.
So for his fellow fish Pisces, there doesn't seem to be an upper limit on how old a mimic can be, considering they're conjured by wizards. So let's try something new. If mimics can learn to speak, then it's plausible for them to learn to hold conversations. And if that's the case, maybe they can even tell stories. So imagine this. You acquire a little baby mimic, feed it, train it, and teach it to tell stories to your child at night to help them get to sleep. But their real purpose is to protect the child from all threats. So this week, how would you know if your childhood imaginary friend who would whisper in your ear as you went to sleep wasn't a protective mimic? Get ready to do your best Enter Sandman and sleep with one eye open. Good luck.
And you could hand it down from generation to generation.
Yes, you could.
Those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, you're the mimic wrangler
You're
over
our
at
people.
Heart of the Game, I'm sure. Which, by the way, I recorded them Friday night so that I could have an audio sending to send it over to him, because I think he's going to have a great old time of that. But of course, if you'd like, a nicer or naughtier one for yourself or someone else's sign, you can bribe me by asking, because I operate very heavily on vanity. Nice to know that people appreciate me. Or if you'd actually like to bribe me, you can do that over the coffee page, coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted as usual online at the end of the week. Tumblr, Facebook, Coffee, Discord, BlueSky. I keep forgetting to do the coffee one. I don't know why. I've got all these bookmarks open all the time. Not like Heretic Woman used to, but I've got a fair number of them. They're constantly open. You'd think I'd actually take notice of this more often.
With everything going on right now, you could probably do an egg-based one next time.
That sounds fun.
I did.
I like eggs. They're yummy. Scrambled eggs that are soft, scrambled with just a little sprinkle of cayenne and maybe a dash of salt and pepper are wonderful.
Okay. I'd not like to have my brains called out in the middle of a show. Appreciate that. So we'll deal with that one a little bit
You
later.
would eat them too, Shujin. You know you would. They're tasty.
I like scrambled eggs that are dry. So
Ew.
that
I used to eat ketchup on those damn things. Gross.
it's fine.
My mom couldn't cook eggs. She cooked them to death. Ew.
I don't like wet.
They were brown on the bottom, for God's sake.
Sometimes that's fun,
No.
but
You've never eaten my mother's cooking. It sucked. It still does.
that's fine.
That's fair.
That's
We
fine.
know.
It's episode 5.
I have 2 words for you, and you can run with it as you wish. Shoe leather.
Episode 529 on the docket, Your Honor. So, how's the weather today? Yeah, some of us have noticed and been very upset about, and we kind of even touched on the topic last week in the middle of the previous show, that National Weather Service has been a little. I believe the British would say, and I'm sure I can get clarification on this one, buggered a little bit, just a wee bit. So some departments have been gutted, and that's putting it nicely. So I figured I'd kind of take a little bit of a larger perspective, because National Weather Service is not the end-all be-all for NOAA. The Weather Service is only part of it. They do a lot. I figured it's probably a good idea for us to kind of mention some of the pieces that they do, some of what they oversee, and kind of explain what it is that we're failing out on, how it might influence and affect other areas, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of what we can do as individual citizens. Now, I know it sounds like it's a huge topic, but believe it or not, there's a lot of pieces that we can kind of get through quickly, mainly because there's a lot of information that we just don't have. So we're going to end up pawing you guys off for doing a lot of your own look-see on stuff. We do have the Wikipedia pages linked in the show notes already, specifically for NOAA, because, I mean, damn, I did not realize how much NOAA does. So we'll kind of hit a little bit on that. And by the way, Roxy, I did see you over there. Hi and good morning. Well, evening for you.
Hi, Roxy. Long time no see. And I'm not looking in chat because I can't multitask, but I know you're out there. Thank you.
That's okay. That's kind of our job.
It's
so
okay. Yeah, that's Shujin's thing. That's not mine.
I try at the very least. Now,
You're very good at it. You know it.
I'm not as good as I used to be, but
Well,
I
get
blame that.
over.
Well, I blame my wife for that.
It's, well, technology has just gotten so wonky that you have to figure it out as things become obsolete.
Well,
It's not been easy.
yes, I mean, there is that. But there's also the small problem of, her breaking my brain by dying. I mean, thanks.
Hmm.
Which, oh yeah, by the
Yeah.
way, I think it's fair for us to go ahead and say and take care of the monetization issue. Fuck cancer. So get that
Dog
covered.
raised with a cactus.
Exactly. So making sure that everybody's on board on this one. When I refer to NOAA, or when we refer to NOAA, we are most assuredly 85% of the time talking about the biblical character. This is one of those times when we're not. NOAA, in this case, is the acronym for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Yes, that is a double mouthful. And it covers a lot of different areas. Like I said, it is the parent organization, if you will, for a number of different groups. Now, I'm going to read off the list of them from the Wikipedia article, the names for the different organizations. Not that we're going to go into each and every one of them, but just to give you a quick overview as to the purview of what NOAA actually handles. Now,
No, I have not read the show notes and I'm not looking. I'm just here.
not a
Do
worry.
your thing, Shujin.
Yeah.
You know
Now-
what I can contribute, what I can't.
Now, NOAA, of course, the most notable one that they cover is the weather. So that's going to be NWS, the National Weather Service. If I were to tune in on my ham radio on the VHF band, they have several radio stations that are constantly transmitting information about the current weather conditions. And if you listen to aircraft stuff often, and one of the people on YouTube I listen to quite often is Air Force Proud 95. I should probably hit him in the show notes so that you folks can take a look at some of the stuff that he's done. In and amongst the funny stuff that happens with it, he does do, real pilot shit. And it's the only way to put it. And he will go ahead and he'll contact the tower. This is whatever the ID is for the aircraft, with information, whatever the letter name is. And that is the thing, to let them know. I've been listening to National Weather Service. The most recent update that I've got is one that they've codenamed whatever the phonetic letter is. And that proves to the tower that you know what the current weather conditions are. Cool. Everybody can pick this up with a VHF radio. You need to kind of tool around in order to find it, but they're usually transmitting from most locations where there's an airport. So, you get that much. Some of the other ones, the National Ocean Service, the National Environmental Satellite Data and Information Service. So yeah, all the satellites looking down on the planet to get information about, cloud cover, amongst other things. The National Marine Fisheries Service, the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. Research is a big thing right now, you might remember. The Office of Marine and Aviation Operations. Yeah, so travel, mass travel especially, on the water, in the air. The National Geodetic Survey. National Integrated Drought Information Systems. I wonder where droughts might be of interest in some areas right now. Now, what these guys do is basically unsexy because it's just cataloging what's going on around us. The cloud cover, the particulate in the air. I bet you guys didn't realize when there is more particulate in the air, in the atmosphere, things change on the ground. Temperatures change. They fluctuate differently. The amount of grass coverage can change drastically because the amount of sunlight that gets down changes quite drastically. And maybe not even in a way that you can notice by looking at it, but if you had a detector that picked up which bands of radiation were making it down to the ground versus not, you'd be able to find that out. And that's the kind of stuff that they do. Because cataloging the day-to-day, the minutia of the nothing, that's important. Because that's how you figure out what's going on from day to day, from week to week, month, year, decade to century. So, what's so important about knowing the weather? If you're a climatologist, goddamned everything. Because you put together enough weather information, that becomes climate. And when you examine climate over years, decades, and centuries, you start to see where there are patterns, where there are outliers in data, and where there are trends. And then you can figure out what's going on because of other things that are going on. So, let's get all into it and start off with the big one, of course, with the National Weather Service. I'll just lay it out there.
I just acquired some additional information live while we were on air, and this is not good. Take a peek in the chat real quick, post chat. You'll see. But, it is what it is. My go-to is gone, and it was there 2 weeks ago. It's gone. Oops.
All right. I'm not familiar with what this one
No, you're
is.
not. Do you remember the pictures that I used to share on Facebook of weather systems that were approaching in increments, and I could trace them across by, liquid or sea surface temperature and all that, and it was an ensemble from the various services that were global? That's gone now, and I just found out here just now.
Yeah, Noah's being stripped.
I know NOAA's being stripped. I am well aware, Tech. I am more than aware.
And that
And
means
don't need,
that...
I know. Tech, listen to me. Stop. I do know. I have friends who have been at SPC for decades that I went to high school with. Okay, Tech? Listen. Just be quiet and listen. They lost their jobs en masse, and I had to sit by and watch it happen to people I love that I've known since 7th grade, Tech. And you know that I am an elite trained weather spotter. You know this. Trust me. I'm very well aware of the implications and have even freaked you out with them. Remember the shows? Yeah, I do. It's okay, Tech. It is what it is. And we know it's screwed up, and there's nothing that we can do now except for look out for ourselves, and that's just the way that it is. I know what we've lost. Trust me, I know it put me in a horrible place. And you, Tech, you don't have any idea. Shujin does. So just don't go there. We know.
Let me
Or if you do, I'm just gonna mute for a few minutes and let you, say your piece, and I'll just step away for a couple minutes. That's fine. I understand. I'm upset with you, hon.
Oh, no, that wasn't the route I was going. I'm sorry if I
Yeah,
came
you can tell the
fresh.
public. I'm just gonna go to the kitchen real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, hon? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll
Uh,
be right back. Thanks.
uh,
Don't worry, Tech. I'm fine. I've got this, hon.
okay.
You do your thing. I'll be back in a minute. I'm gonna go run to the kitchen real quick. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
So it's going to
So,
screw up my labeling on the screen.
well, once you put your camera back on, it should go back to normal.
Yeah.
So that wasn't actually the direction I was going in. What the direction I was going in was because they have been stripping NOAA. The data that we get from them is used by innumerable applications on cell phones, computers, database systems, not just here in the US, but all over the world. And those systems are no longer getting their data
Well,
from
let
a lot of sources.
let's also make sure that we're a little bit more judicious. Most of the data.
Most.
Now,
Yeah.
it's not
Just the
all
most.
shut down, but there are definite gaps and holes because of how this is happening at this point.
Yeah. And so because of that, a lot of these applications that some people in various parts of the world rely on desperately for because their countries don't have that level of weather monitoring going on because they haven't invested in the infrastructure the way we did have over the period of time, they suddenly are without hope.
Yeah. iOS pointed out something, and accurately so. The next hurricane, without NOAA, it's going to smack the U.S. south and east, and no one is going to get warning. People are going to die. But that's what Muskrat and Fotis want, for people to die. The thing that hurts the most about this, to me, is that never mind the jobs that are being slashed. I'm not even going to say cut. It's slashed. It's that we end up losing so much more because of the service that it is. How the hell are you supposed to know what aircraft are going to be impacted? I'm not saying how, but which aircraft are going to be impacted. How many communities are going to suddenly no longer have their phones start blaring at them for tornado warning? And before you go ahead and ask about that and kind of look around, yeah, there is a system in place where National Weather Service can go, okay, yeah, here's an area where there's going to be a tornado. Cell phone carriers in this geographic area, send off an alert now. And they do. I mean,
I can attest to that. I've had hurricane warnings and even tornado warnings. Although those are far be it much rarer from my area.
yeah, a couple of years ago, when I was in Pittsburgh for Anthrocon, all of a sudden, 5,000. Well, I don't remember exactly how many. 5,000 cell phones all started blaring an announcement all at the same time, a warning, and everybody suddenly looked around because everybody's phone went off at the same time. because there was flash flooding going on in the area. And there were people that were there from, well, I mean, me from up Buffalo, plenty of people from the Midwest, a lot of folks from overseas who came in. And, they had no affiliation whatsoever, but because they were geographically in the area, they got it too. Was it annoying because we weren't actually in an area where there was flooding? Maybe a little bit. But what would you rather have? A little bit of an annoyance because, well, it's not affecting me? Or, well, suddenly finding out that there is a flash flood that's happening? And if you've never seen video of what a flash flood actually looks like in an area where it had been otherwise dry for like way too long, I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen a couple of videos where I was convinced that the people who were shooting the video were going to get themselves, let's just say, soaked with trees. It looked like a beaver dam being pushed down a riverbed that was dry as a bone. It is the most terrifying thing I have ever seen. And I've seen 2 water spouts forming within about 5 miles of where I work these days.
I've been through the heart of a hurricane, and I can tell you that that is less terrifying than seeing a flash flood in person.
Yeah. Yeah, you and me both. Remember, 3 from me back in the 80s. Hugo, Gloria, and Floyd. And those did a number on New York City. And Long Island, where I was living at the time. Bad.
Yeah. There's nothing like seeing a wall of destruction coming at your face at a speed of which you cannot outrun, probably not outdrive, and know that, oh crap, is probably going to be your last thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
whereas a hurricane is, okay, it's dark, it's windy, there are things flying through the air, you might be able to dodge and weave and get to the basement and everything else. But a flash flood is just a physical wall of debris. There's no dodging, there's no weaving. You either have high ground next to you that you can immediately scale and hope to get out of the way, or you're going to have a bad day.
yeah. Io's also pointed out, earthquake warnings haven't gone off here lately. She's over on the left coast. I think it's probably because we haven't had anything bigger than a 3.9 on the Richter scale, which, I mean, I get that. You want to prioritize stuff that's going to have an actual, like, real impact. And until you start getting into, I think it's 4 or 5, there's not much in the line of actual worrisome damage that can happen. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. Any crust shifting is something that you got to be a little bit concerned about, be that as it may. The biggest problem, and again, Io is also pointing it out, saying a tornado is a pinpoint weather event on the weather map. A hurricane is like spilling ink on that very same where the ink lands. That's the damage. It's true. The biggest problem, the biggest difference, if you'll pardon the expression, with a hurricane is the vast amount of rain that can be dumped in an area. The wind sucks, don't get me wrong. I mean, literally and figuratively. But the amount of just torrential rain that goes along with the wind, which is not on the same scale as a tornado because of how huge it is. You know, a hurricane, a Cat 1 hurricane, if I remember right, is sustained winds of, I believe it's 75 miles an hour. And I don't know about anybody else, but that's enough for me. So when it hits land and it starts to slow down, guess what happens with all the water that's inside of that? It just comes down.
Yeah, and you have other ones like Category 3s, like I think Hurricane Andrew was a Category 3, if I remember correctly,
I
back in the late 80s, early 90s.
I don't
Um,
recall, but that sounds like it's probably.
yeah, Hurricane Andrew is one of the names that got retired because it caused so much destruction and devastation. And one of the many reasons why it caused so much is because at one point its momentum slowed. It didn't. The speeds didn't slow. It traveling slowed. Anytime you have a hurricane that slows and stays kind of hovering over an area for any significant period of time, it just keeps dumping stuff in that area, and it keeps dumping and dumping and dumping. So even if the hurricane peters out in an area, it's dumped and done. But a hurricane that hasn't spun down but stays in an area, that's like turning on the fire hose and pointing it at a glass and just watching it overflow and continue to overflow and overflow and overflow and overflow.
Yeah.
And it's a nightmare for anybody that it's hovering over.
Yeah, and let's also remember that on the opposite side of the spectrum, where when it's cold, you've got the warnings about snow and ice and freezing rain and freezing temperatures. And before anybody goes ahead and says, well, yeah, you get up into the north areas, like, up in Alaska, you expect this kind of thing. You get up around, the north side of the country, you expect these things. You expect these things along the Canadian border and the Great Lakes and the freezing rain and
like Texas.
And the lake effect snow that, drops 7 feet on us in a weekend. 7 feet of snow, by the way, is more than enough to destroy some buildings. Commercial buildings, I remember, that had flat roofs where there is no angling for it to go anywhere. These commercial buildings just destroyed because there was so much weight on the top. Just a flat surface. Just fell right through. And as far as to how much that can hurt, like I said, that lake effect snow is all one thing. And as Tech pointed out, you get down over into Texas, and suddenly there's no power to run the electricity grid, which is isolated from everybody else because fuck everybody else, apparently. But if you want to go and point out where it's like a real thing, how about Florida? How about the citrus groves when it's going to suddenly become, of the freezing variety? And they need the information so that they can set up the sprinkler system because it'll then coat the oranges and shield them in a nice glaze of ice. Because once they're insulated with ice around the outside, that's just going to stop at 0 degrees centigrade. And the inside just stays at whatever temperature. Yes, getting colder, but at least if it gets that much colder on the outside, it won't necessarily get that much colder on the inside and will not completely destroy an entire grove. And if there's one thing these guys know, they know money.
Yeah, this drive to find cuts to save money. It was like, for what? You just turned off USAID. And what are you doing with all the money? You're obviously not giving it to the homeless or the hungry. You're not giving it to the poor. You're not reinvesting in, any of the programs that help Americans with it. So where's this going? Oh, your latest tax proposal shows I'm going to be paying more in taxes. So obviously it didn't go to me, and I'm not low class. I'm in the middle class, so it's not going to me. What about the upper class? Kind of, sort of, maybe a couple $100. Okay. What about the billionaires? Oh, they're going to be saving a ton. So what you're saying is you're taking the money and you're giving it to the wealthy. Okay. Yeah, you're a dick.
Yeah. A question was posed to me. Stephanie had asked, can you get Canada's weather service, Shujin? I do believe that where I am currently located with just my little radio and the little antenna, which this is a handheld radio. It is an older one at this point, but it does do VHF, UHF. I do believe that I would be able to pick it up. Even if I couldn't necessarily with the little rubber duck antenna, effectively, with just a little bit of elevation, I should be able to. I don't know what frequency it's currently using. I mean, I could probably plug into it and tool around to try to find it, but I do have the list of the frequencies that they'd use. I don't know which one would be closest to me. Probably Toronto, maybe Niagara Falls. I don't know where their broadcast service would be out of, and that would determine a good portion of what I'd be able to pick up. Because the weather services, okay, nerd tech moment for just a couple of seconds here. The frequency band that is used by National Weather Service is also part of the VHF system, very high frequency. A lot of radio services use this. The FM radio broadcast spectrum is at the very, very bottom end of this. It is a line of sight system, meaning if the transmitter can see the receiver and vice versa, the signal will go through very easily as if there was nothing in the way. There are certain reflections that help with that, but of course, that's kind of the way that it works. There are other frequency bands that behave differently. Your mileage may vary in any case. If I am of a sufficient altitude, or if anyone is at a sufficient altitude, they would be able to hear whatever transmitters were in their line of sight, which is why virtually everyone would be able to listen to the International Space Station when they go overhead for roughly about 7-8 minutes as they go by. It's all good. And that's why for me, one of the coolest things is EME radio transmissions. EME standing for Earth, Moon, Earth, because at the right frequencies, you can literally bounce a radio signal off of the moon. I am not making that shit up. That is a real thing, and it is freaky as hell to have happen. Thank you very much. But weather radios, not a bad thing to have. There are some CB radios these days that have actually got just a switch so that you can for the dedicated weather bands, and then you just click, because there's only a handful of radio frequencies that are used, and you just click until you find the one that's closest to you, and you can hear what's going on.
Yeah, I have a miniature radio that I carry in my bag. Normally they run on the style that ran on AA's. This one has its own replaceable, rechargeable battery packs, and while it has the antenna for FM, and works just fine for AM, it also has the clip with basically you throw it into the trees, and it's an antenna for all the weather band and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it's 20 feet line with a specially shaped antenna at the end of it. You go find your nearest tree, toss it up there, clip it to the radio, turn it to weather band or whatever, and adjust it analog style. And that goes everywhere with me wherever I travel.
Yeah, there are certain antennas that are better than others for different frequency bands, but generally speaking, if you're doing just receiving like that, yeah, just a wire, just long ass wire. Just pick up as much radio frequency as you can. That's good enough.
Yeah, it's just a nice, neat design that came along with the radio. I was like, oh, that's a great perk. I'll take that. Got a solar panel with it too for recharging it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, one of those little pocket ones. So yeah, in addition to that, we're pulling out of WHO, the World Health Organization, and that's going to affect other countries.
Yes, not part of the purview for tonight, but it is a valid concern.
It's all part of the international stuff, because that's what I thought we were doing for tonight.
Well, I'm specifically trying to target specifically NOAA because they've got all these different things that they cover, and that blanket that umbrella for NOAA itself has got so much that affects so many.
I see. I was reading about how we're going to be talking about international lives are being affected versus how, and I didn't look at the title of the show where it says "How's the weather today?" So
No worries.
I was prepared more for how we're doing internationally, how we're being viewed internationally, those sorts of things. So I'm kind of prepared for the wrong show.
Yeah, to a certain degree, it's all right.
Yeah.
One of the other sections that they've got, and again, this is shifting away from National Weather Service specifically, because oh my God, we could talk endlessly on this topic, especially considering some of the stuff that I trained for myself with the ham radio communities. The National Marine Fisheries Service. Now, there are folks that are going to listen to that and they're just like, okay, you're making sure that people aren't fishing out areas? Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. Sometimes people don't really understand what environmental conservation can really be. Now, for a lot of folks, that would be, hunting licenses, fishing licenses, so that, it's a regulated thing. And this is kind of part of that area where you want to make sure that you understand what's happening with the ecosystem with groups that are getting fished. And I don't mean humans doing the fishing. I mean groups of wildlife, marine wildlife. And it's not just fish or sharks or name any aquatic species. It's also got to do with the crustaceans, with the coral, with the plankton, with the algae, the entirety of what's going on with how is everything working. Because as we found out, or more appropriately as Australia found out, when you introduce an invasive species that has no predator, suddenly things get really out of whack really fast. And if you overfish a species in the ocean and you set up a vacuum in the ecological food chain and don't even realize it, well, all kinds of bad happens. And it just ripples outwards from there, if you'll pardon the expression. And for those that are wondering, well, how bad could you do it? I don't know. How far can you extend a liter of raw petroleum fresh out of the ground? How thin will that settle on top of the ocean? How much sunlight, UV light, infrared light, will that absorb and not get down further to where algae needs it, where plankton needs it? We don't think about these things until all of a sudden stuff goes sideways. And these are the guys that end up documenting it, make recommendations about it. They're scientists. That's their purview. That's their job. That's their calling. They know it's not a sexy job, but they do their damnedest to make sure that the public and the policymakers know what's happening and the best way, the most advantageous way to try to fix it. And you notice I say try, because sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, you want to get an idea as to how much these guys study? is not with the U.S., but you might remember hearing about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. Well, technically it's part of Australia. It's not actually in Australia. It's in the water, of course. But they look at what's been going on and they see how things have been affecting the coral. Coral is a living thing. And how so much of it is bleached because it's dead. And they try to understand what's been happening. They check their charts, their measurements, find out what's going on, make recommendations on how to stop it from happening. And in a lot of cases, they've been getting it right, and it's been helping. It's not all dead off yet, fortunately. But it's because of researchers like that that prevent these kinds of things from happening. It's hard to imagine that geeks like this are the ones trying to help save the planet, you know? Yeah, there's also something else going on over in the chat that Tech has commented on about Canada with Jack Daniels and IOs being the bearer of news about it too.
I actually support that action. I really, you know, it doesn't get through to people. The average person does not. As I was explaining to my offspring, my son, the world that we live in is global. Literally. We no longer live in a world where countries are in their own little bubbles. Okay? Everybody's economy is intertwined. Everybody's communications are intertwined. Everything is intertwined on some level. And we in America have this problem where a large number of Americans are only aware of what goes on around them. And I mean, when I say aware, I don't mean that they're not seeing the news talking about Russia and Ukraine going at it, or Israel and Palestine, or any of those other hot topics. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where they live their lives and are like, oh, price of eggs went up. Price of eggs went down. Price of eggs went up. Price of eggs went down. It's like, yeah, for your area. What about other areas? In some other areas, the price of eggs never went down. In some countries, the price of eggs have stayed the same. You know, they're not aware of those things because they're living in their own little bubble. Because those areas of the world, they don't see as having a direct effect on them. Just because somebody in New York is paying a higher price for eggs and they live in, I don't know, I'm just going to say North Carolina or South Carolina, right? Because it's below them. Or New York's above them, right? So it could be California, Maine, I don't care. But just because somebody in New York is paying a higher price of eggs doesn't necessarily mean that this person is paying a higher price of eggs. And so this person is not fully internalizing that, oh, these people in New York, these poor people in New York are paying a higher cost of eggs. Oh, that's terrible. What can I do to help? A lot of people don't have this mentality. Okay? A not so insignificant number. And we can see it through voting and activity, not just on the internet, but in daily lives, you know, conversations that we have with people around us. I have lost count of the amount of people who think certain actions that have been taken by our two presidents, President Musk and President Trump, and went, oh, this is a good thing. It was like, well, how has it affected your life? Oh, it hasn't affected me at all. That's why you think it's a good thing. But the moment it affects your life in a negative way, suddenly they're starting to rethink things. That's living in a bubble, literally. because your bubble has not been popped yet. And that's not, well, you get the point. And this is a very big problem in the U.S., in my opinion. So when somebody hears, oh, USA got cut off, that's not a problem for me. Yeah, it kind of is. Here's what they do. Here's why they do it. Oh, well, they sent condoms out to hundreds of millions of dollars in condoms and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. Do you understand how disease works and outbreaks and how they travel back to us? Like, I really wouldn't want to see Ebola come into this country. All right. We're already trying to tackle the measles outbreak in Texas. Come on. You really want to try tackling Ebola? Let's not do this. Let's not go down this road. And until Americans get the slap in the face that they need, they don't see it. They don't internalize it. It's not a real thing in the way that you can hold a cell phone in your hand. Real thing. The way that they see their local price of eggs skyrocket. Real thing for them. And with the whole weather system and monitoring and everything else, there's going to be a lot of people who think, oh, it's no skin off my back. I've got my radio, I've got Weather Channel, until suddenly they don't. When they go, wait, why did my house get torn down by this tornado? Why wasn't I alerted? Where did this hurricane come from? Why weren't we alerted? And then, for example, FEMA just canceled their fire training program because they don't have the money for it anymore. They got cut. Funding cut. Oh, FEMA's here. Great. There's fire. FEMA doesn't know how to handle fire. Why don't they know how to handle fire? They're FEMA. Well,
They were.
they got cut. Here's your eye-opening experience for you. And the problem is that these kinds of experiences, these are not healthy. These are not productive. They are life-threatening. And we got enough problems that we don't need these extra problems. I don't care what anybody says. I am willing to have my taxes go up, and have another $100, $200, $300 cut out of my pay per year to make sure that these services exist because they save lives.
Yeah, there's another group that I want to move forward into really quickly, because the whole life-saving thing, it's not immediately apparent with this particular organization until you take a couple of extra seconds to think about it. The U.S. National Geodetic Survey. Now, of course, right away, there are some people that are trying to figure it out, and they're just like, wait, I've heard that term in math class back in high school, I'm pretty sure. Geometry, trigonometry. I know I've heard it somewhere. Sort of. They're the group that, according to the right on Wikipedia, quote, that defines and manages a national coordinate system, providing the foundations for transportation and communications, mapping and charting, and a large number of science and engineering applications. Good luck trying to use accurate GPS systems for finding someone trying to be triangulated with cell phone towers in an emergency 911 situation. Good luck navigating your vehicle with GPS when LORAN, by the way, no longer exists. And for anybody that doesn't know what LORAN is, you're not old enough to know what LORAN is. LORAN is how you used to navigate on the ocean before there was GPS.
And I'm lucky. I have a privilege. And that privilege is that when I was young, my grandfather taught me how to read a map. And he forced me to give directions by reading a map and spotting landmarks and road signs and all that other stuff to navigate a 4-hour trip. I was literally sitting in the seat next to him in his old Oldsmobile, navigating, and with him going, him knowing the entire trip how to get where we were going. He knew without looking at the map where he was going, but he would only turn at the turns I directed him to. I was 100% responsible for getting us to where we needed to go. A day after he taught me how to read maps, one day, it was like a 3-hour session of how to read a map and how to navigate a map. And I had to navigate an entire 4-hour trip. And I was a young teenager. I think I was 14 at the time, maybe younger. How many people have that sort of experience? And that's with road signs and recognizable landmarks. Now you have a travesty of a major weather event that comes through and blows that out of the water. How do you get where you're going? Do you have a compass? Do you know how to use it? I do, but do you? And that's not something that's taught in in public schools. Boy Scouts, maybe. Girl Scouts, possibly. Sometimes, you have family members who have survival training or wilderness training. Okay. But do you? Can you do it in an emergency? Do you have the maps in your car with detailed information that you need for that compass? Do you have the compass in your car? I have 2 compasses. I have one in my car, and I have one that goes everywhere with me in a bag. A little tiny bird's eye one, so to speak, or a bug eye one. That's what it's called, bug eye compass. But, these are things that we as Americans are going to have to learn again, as well as other people in other countries, when we don't have the data we need for our electronic devices. I taught my son very early on that the cell phone is not magic, that computers are not magic. What is the underlying infrastructure that makes this technology work?
Furries. Furries.
Yes, exactly. So the thing is that he understands that if the infrastructure goes down, for whatever reason is immaterial, but it goes down, this stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, let's kind of branch just a wee bit off of that one.
Go for it.
Because one of the groups that would be able to give additional weather information that would help knowing when that's going to be happening is NASA. Because who knows more about space weather than NASA? And for those of you that are going, there are no clouds in space. There, yeah, there are. They're called coronal mass ejections. They come from the sun and they fly out through the solar system, and we get knowledge about them ahead of time so that we know if and or when satellites might go down. Because the individual handheld computers that are phones, because they're mini supercomputers, make no mistake, they themselves may continue to operate. But how many of you knew that once upon a time ago there was a huge coronal mass ejection that back in the day of telegraph line ionized the planet? So much so there was so much magnetic interference that telegraph lines were energized and lit themselves on fire. And they destroyed telegraph offices because the code keys sparked so badly they ignited and set the rooms on fire. What is that
People
going
don't
to...
realize that phone lines, which we still use here in the U.S., made out of copper, are not shielded.
High tension, high voltage transmission lines are way up in the air, and they're made of wait a minute, let me do some quick math over here. Conductive metal, which means the next time there's a coronal mass ejection that comes around and does all kinds of just higgledy-piggledy with electromagnets and electricity and magnets and magnet electricity, will go and do mass damage. Not just to the US, to the rest of the world. And who's going to know about it if these departments don't talk back and forth to each other? What'll happen to the US if it were to happen in the dead of winter? And suddenly, we don't know that suddenly all of the heating systems went offline because all of the transmission systems for electricity went down because they all melted the transmission centers in the middle of winter. Who's going to know? Who's going to know that suddenly there's a wind blowing through at a couple dozen kilometers per hour with wind chills at 0? Or worse yet, getting to below 0, well below 0 in some cases, with snow to back it up. Or worse yet, freezing rain. And I say worse yet because who only knows where the black ice hits when you're traveling? If you're a tractor-trailer driver, or worse, you are the dispatcher for tractor-trailers, and you don't have proper weather information, everything's screwed. Everything is screwed. And I say that not from the standpoint of, well, some pallets are going to get shifted. No, 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 no. What about the big tankers? Because some of them carry milk. Some of them don't. And some of the stuff has got a placard on the back that lets you know you need to be 500 feet away from this because it will explodify.
Yeah. And of course, there's always a truck tailgating those people.
There shouldn't be. And by truck, he means, by the way, sometimes pickup truck, because it's typically not another commercial tractor-trailer driver. They know better.
Yeah.
They know better for a good reason.
Yeah. It's. I have lost count of, in my years of traveling into the mountains and out of the mountains and everything else, that I have seen tractor trailers in just absolutely horrific accidents caused by either bad weather or somebody's bad driving.
Mm-hmm.
And it is horrific.
Yep.
And now you add in toxic substances, caustic substances, acidic, oil-based, whatever, environmentally unfriendly stuff. And people don't pay attention to it because, oh, that didn't happen in my area. I don't live in that area. What do I care? You know, it's not going to hurt me. Actually, yeah, it does, because it hurts everything. Everything has a price. Everything has a cause and effect. The whole tariff things, right? People don't realize how many times car parts travel between the US, Mexico, Canada, and other countries before back and forth before they have a finally assembled product. And the more times they travel back and forth and the more tariffs and taxes there are, the more that price starts to go up. And it just goes up and up and up and up. Now imagine your food. Okay, you've been buying this one product for all this time, and a shipment and it's a shipment of this product just went off the road. All that product's gone. And now make it worse. You've had a tornado blown through an area and taken out a warehouse of that product. Or worse yet, you've had or hurricane blow through the area, and that entire area, that grove, that farm, that whatever that produces that product is now obliterated. And they didn't have time to prepare because they weren't notified. And if they had been notified early enough, they could have at least maybe saved 50% of that. But now there's none of it. Where's that product? Well, maybe that product was key in making the medicine you need on a daily basis. Or your neighbor does, or their kid does, or your dog does. It's going to be an eye-opener when that terrible thing that happened 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states away suddenly impacts your life.
And that's the biggest problem, isn't it?
Prevented.
That's the biggest kick in the ass about the whole damn thing. It's that it's not. We've talked about this too damn many times. The U.S. at large is really, really good at reactionary and really, really bad at proactive. Long term, we don't think about it. Until it's right in our faces, until it's directly impacting us, we have a bad habit of just letting it go until that very last moment. And then scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
And
preventative maintenance? What's that?
And this is one of those things. These people do not understand. If you kneecap a group, a service in the government, no, it is not going to immediately cause damage down the road to individuals. It has to percolate down because that's the way that it is. And the problem is that pain won't happen for a little bit until, unfortunately, well after the fact. And at that point, then it's a mad scramble for who to blame, who to be bad at. And yet again, it's going to be all of us who are going to be going, fucking told you. Fucking told you. But,
and then we'll get yelled at for saying it.
Yes.
Instead of acknowledging, here's the thing. I'm not looking anymore for people to go, I was wrong. I just want people to admit I was lied to and move forward. We need to move forward.
Yes.
But they won't.
But
they won't. They won't admit they got lied to. They won't admit that they were drinking the Kool-Aid for so long. In some cases because of embarrassment, and in other cases because they've invested so heavily in it, their brain just refuses to accept it.
Yeah, that's also part of the problem. Yes, I would very much like for many of these people to have, I'm going to use the word pain, though I don't necessarily mean physical pain. I want people to be uncomfortable with the mistake that they've made. I want them to be embarrassed. I want them to feel shame that they did what they did. So that they have motivation for fixing what they got wrong. So that they don't do it again. So that they're motivated to actually clean up the mess and to put safeguards into place. Am I going to trust these people? Hell no. Not for a very long time, because trust has to be re-earned. But god damn, it's freaking annoying.
Yeah, it sure has been, and then some.
Welcome back, by the way.
My husband walks in this afternoon and does not say a word. He brings in my Laura Ashley custom-made pillow that I had made while I worked there. He places it gingerly on my desk. He says one word, Musk. I don't know the details. I don't want to know. I just went, bam, squeezy ball.
And welcome back, by the way.
He bought me this cup for when I came home. I had no idea. It was a surprise. I was doing things and he's like, open the damn box. And I
By
was
the way,
like, I'm busy.
that's a great cup, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is for Brigid Fitch.
Yes, it
And
is.
he had it custom made and I had no idea. It just showed up.
And
Nice.
in all transparency, I broke my squeezy ball about a month
Well,
ago.
Can't
I
imagine why.
have another mug similar to this one that no one is ever going to see but Shujin ever. It's a secret. It's going to be in a book.
Oh, mug. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I was thinking about your presented water bottle. We're not going to show that one tonight. We're not going to show that one tonight.
No, but you saw my
Oh, I know.
Off my keyboard.
early birthday present.
I know.
Sorry,
Because my husband does things like that, like the surprise VIP package to sticks, where I got to give Tommy Shaw a fist bump in person. That was on the bucket list since I was in 8th grade.
Gotta love
I
that.
have pictures from back then where I happened to get a shot of him back then looking directly at me. I no longer have that picture. It's just a memory. But I remember. And it got a lot of attention back in high school. Girls were squeeing all over that picture that was mine for once.
So, really quickly, because
How'd that work out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we still got a little bit, just a little bit of time because
shit, it's almost over.
Yeah.
It's gone way too long.
I want to briefly,
Sorry.
touch on one quick topic because I'm going to be needing to get away from the desk and the chair.
Yeah, and I gotta hit Duolingo before I time out and lose my streak.
Priorities,
See
man.
this right here? I just finished this today. What is it? You know what it is.
It's Geddy Lee. There you go.
In perfect Yiddish. The ending of it made me, I don't know what it made me. Happy, glad it was there, but sad that it was over. But Geddy Lee is not done. He's an author now, and if he wants to move around on his base in his living room, he does just that.
Cool.
And I knew things that were behind the scenes now that public did not know. It was a secret. I was in on it, but didn't have all of that secret until today.
She's a fangirl. I love it.
And I've got stuff to tell you, Shujin. You're going to be like, whoa, that's just awesome. Trust me.
So, like I said, briefly, we're going to mention about some of the stuff that we as citizens can do to help out. And I don't mean political activism because that's an area where it
doesn't work anymore.
And I don't know nearly enough about how to do it anymore, short of things that we really shouldn't be doing because that would be wrong and detrimental to the progression of human lifetimes for specific individuals. We'll just leave it that way because that's a circuitous enough path that I don't think anybody's going to... Anyway.
It's been a lot of harmful stuff.
Yeah.
And I have watched it, and there's nothing more that I can do. I've done my Rule 303, and I'm doing it now.
So,
and you know what I mean.
So for we citizens, we Joe average public, Joanne average public, there's a reason I'm using that name, and Io knows full well, although she's gone to sleep now. So if she missed out on it, oh well.
Night, night.
There are certain things that we as citizens can do and have done that can kind of help the general populace. Now, one of the things that we can do, and again, this goes back to National Weather Service and meteorology at large, is that we can do our small parts. The weather services that you would nominally be getting your information from, for a lot of us, it's National Weather Service because, we nerd out on that. They've had great things. But TV stations, radio stations, broadcasts of various descriptions, their weather radar, their weather reporting, it's not from them. It's from National Weather Service. Whether you believe it or not, the stuff where they've got the live radar, where they've got this sweeping thing on the screen, no, that's made up. That's a completely made up thing that's done in the studio, where they're just layering over a sweeping transition thing from one radar image to the next. It's not live.
That information that everyone had, I know exactly where it came from and who gave it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. And there once
and it was out of Norman, Oklahoma.
Years ago, before I moved up here.
Years ago.
Well, years ago.
When a former classmate of mine was interested in meteorology and started school at Memphis State University. A couple of years before I did, but we were in band together.
Years ago, before I moved up here, I had the opportunity of helping out with the emergency services, the ham radio community, the amateur radio community, with two groups. They're called Aries and Reese's. And they're not at all what you think they might be from the terms are actually oh crap, it's been so long. The Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, if I remember right, for Reese's. Aries is the crap, I've forgotten what they are. God, it's been so long since I've done it. So anyway, I'll put it in the show notes so that so we get, actually, you know what? Show notes.
I've got something for you, actually, if you're interested. I have to find it, but you may or may not want it.
I'll make sure that they're in there. Anyway, I got the opportunity with a buddy of mine, a couple of buds of mine, to go to Brookhaven National Laboratories on Long Island. Now, it's a bit of a drive from where we were, but we went up to Brookhaven to go to National Weather Service headquarters. I have never in my life seen so many computer terminals and so many computer monitors. And reminding you that this was roughly 1991, maybe 90, 91. So all these monitors, except for the ones that were actual projection screens, because there were a couple of those, they were all CRTs. They were all cathode ray tube monitors, big heavy things. Some of them, 15, 17 inches maybe, but there were so many of them all over the place, all with different pieces of information. Radios galore. In some cases, tuned in for various ham radio stations across the water to Connecticut, the ones over here, over here at Brookhaven. They could pick up stuff from Jersey also, because they had an antenna, way the hell up.
Damn it.
and they could just listen to whatever it was they wanted to. They didn't talk to them, but they listened because we got information to them sometimes. The weather spotters, especially, were the ones that when there's a weather emergency, they've got all the training. They get out there, they find out what's going on, they get weather reports, and they make sure that they get to the appropriate areas. They are the ham radio version of citizen journalists. They're citizen
Yeah.
weather people.
And I'm getting ready to dox myself, but try not to dox anybody else. And I'm
Don't
trying to,
don't do yourself. You know my one rule with you.
yeah, I'm just going to show you one thing. And it is important and it's meaningful, and I don't care if it's doxed or not. It's part of me. And I'm going to do a close-up here. And you may not be able to see it because I don't know how to embiggen it. And that's blurry. Shit. I tried. For anyone who is trying to figure out what the hell I'm holding right here, it is texting with NWS, SMS, MMS as 85473 out of EVV for PAH.
Now, explain what all that translates into.
I, Little Miss Me, am an elite trained weather spotter for my area, but my area goes through Paducah, Kentucky. It's not affiliated with the Indianapolis National Weather Service. That's a separate office. So if I peek my head outside and I make an observation, something's going on, I don't chase tornadoes because I've
Fuck
got
that
other
noise.
things to do. Yeah, fuck that noise. I mean, other professionals do that shit, and some of them from the Weather Channel have gotten killed. I remember. But anytime that I was at work, somewhere here, if people got concerned about the weather or whatever, I would go out and go, mm, no, it's just dark and rainy. Calm down. If you see me run to the basement, follow me. Just trust me, I've got this. That was me. Cool, huh?
It actually
Yeah,
is.
very. Rick Smith from Norman, Oklahoma sent me way back when, before he was anybody. How about that? He sent me a certificate because I don't remember. I'm timeline. I go by events. I completed my elite training on, I can see that far. Oh shit, April 4th, 2019.
So it's been a hot minute.
It's been a minute and several classes and years in the making, but yeah, that was me on April 4, 2019. That's when I got my official certificate. How about that? I am somebody and I'm important. It mattered that I was here
So
a lot.
so as just Joan Q Public, we have the ability of helping out here and there. I'm absolutely certain, and Tech, you kind of help me out on this. I find it absolutely ludicrous to think that somebody would not start an open weather project where
We had one called GitHub. It was earth.nullschool.net. I relied on that
that
on my own.
wait a minute, that was from the public as opposed to government research info.
This was a GitHub. It was an ensemble from every possible source of data around the globe. I could look around and see if something was going to turn into a hurricane or not. I could check it for aurora events in an instant to see where they were going how close or how far from me they were going to be. But those only went out, about 8 hours, and then they were not in date anymore. But I would go look. And if I heard, um, that there were interesting skies, in Calgary or Toronto or something like that, I wasn't there. But I could watch on that and see how big it was and infer from that. And then the one time that I actually got to see it myself live was not that much because I'm so far down. And it's unusual. It's record setting when that stuff comes down here. My bucket list item has always been to see the aurora live in person. Didn't matter if it was Calgary. I would have loved to have done it in, Iceland or something, but I don't have the money. Before COVID hit and screwed up things, I was planning on a trip to Calgary to go with and see it in person myself with who. COVID derailed everything and then some. That included.
Fair enough.
He knows.
Mm-hmm. I am home.
You know who I'm talking about, Dalan.
No, I got that. I'm sorry.
I know you did.
I was just looking.
Derailed the ending of the show.
I just started looking for something because what I was actually asking for you, Tech, the idea that at this point with how stuff like National Weather Service operates, that I would find it absolutely impossible to think that somebody wouldn't start a citizens open weather project kind of thing. And I think there may actually be such a thing already of sorts, because I found openweather.co.uk. Now, this is the first I've ever known of it. But from the naming, it feels like that's kind of like this kind of thing over here. But I need to learn.
I looked at it. Yeah, I do check, with the Canadian Weather Services. Sometimes I'll peep in, in some of the various EU places for information, and do go look. But if there comes a time when we no longer in this country have access to those places, what can we do? Get a VPN that goes through Proton or Proton Mail or something. It does cost money, but that may be all that we are left with, Shujin.
I'm gonna have to look a little bit further into this.
Yeah, Angry Staffer is on this. Trust me.
Yeah, fair enough. Let me put this into.
I know things. Sometimes way more than I should.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that into the show notes section of Discord. I will have to read up a lot more about this because this is far and away more complicated than what I can do in just like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to have to do some research myself. That's just going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's all being written down for posterity.
Yeah. Something tells me.
Trust me.
Yeah. Tech, one of these days, I think you and I are going to have to go through and go through some of these items that we've found over the shows and find the stuff that's like good technology to know about for, stuff like if this turns out to be the kind of thing that I think that it is, I think this is probably something worthwhile. You remember the whole Bluetooth SMS contacting thing and various other things. Yeah.
I lived it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a good idea for us to. check these things.
I can honestly say that, with everything going on the way it is, um, with services degrading due to budget cuts and everything and
Mhm.
funding cuts, um, we Americans really, as well as other people, should really be installing things like Bridgefy or
Mhm.
whatever works best in your area. Um, Start rebuilding your relationships with your neighbors. Rebuild relationships or build them if you don't have them at all with local farmers, um, and so on and so forth. Really start doing these things, because whatever you do now is going to pay off in dividends later. And if you don't do it at all, when later comes, you're going to
Mhm.
be a fish without a pond.
Yeah, some of us already are, and there's nothing to be done for it. We know.
Yeah. But I mean, something simple like installing Bridgefy, if
Mhm.
you and your neighbors, just reach out to your neighbor and go, hey, look, I heard about this application. It's called Bridgefy, and it uses the cell phone's built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so that if we have a disaster where our cell service cuts out and our internet cuts out, we can still talk to each other through this application, as long
Mhm.
as we just turn our cell phone's Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas on. And you know, we should tell our friends and family that live reasonably close nearby that they should do the same thing. And that way we can turn them all on, if we all lose contact. I mean, and the nice thing about it is if one person manages to get internet access or cellular access, we can all run through that. It literally acts as a bridge to regain
Mhm.
connectivity. It creates what's called an ad hoc, as a nerd, an ad hoc network.
Mhm.
And by
I
doing
know.
that, we can cause. I'm
Yeah,
mostly,
you're yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm mostly
Sorry.
explaining for the viewers.
Mhm. Okay.
And so we have this way of potentially having a lifeline in a bad scenario.
Yeah.
And for people who live down near the Gulf of Mexico, people who live on the coastlines, these are important things to have,
Mm.
because they're the ones that get hit with the most hurricanes.
Yeah.
So it is,
Yeah, we've
it
been doing
is,
this for 3 hours now.
yeah,
Oops.
We had a two.
It happens.
We compacted a 2 hour show into a 3 hour time slot.
not
Oops.
not the first time, and it feels like that quite often.
Although,
Sometimes we've wound up ending the show at 1:30. It's happened.
Yeah,
We just can't keep to a schedule. Shujin tries his best, but sometimes it just doesn't go that way.
yeah. We really should
I know.
wrap it up at
Yeah,
this
we
point.
did.
The joke, for those of you that aren't privy to it, at the moment as of recording, my computer clock now currently shows, reminding you that I start the show here on the East Coast at 12:05 a.m. or 00:05 a.m. of the East
I'm at
Coast.
GMT -6 at the moment. It's about to change to GMT -5.
Yeah,
And I've got people in Austria that I'm trying to coordinate this shit with. It's wonky.
yeah. What's just happened here for the East Coast of the Americas is that we have shifted time zones. So what normally would
Hmm.
have been 2:05 a.m., it is now 3:05 a.m., actually '09, but you get the
Hmm.
idea. I hate these shows. I hate these shows.
And
It,
the whole issue with that is back in the day when people kind of sort of followed, the time changes, depending on the state or whatever. Um, it was usually about 6 months on and 6 months off. Now that's not the case. Now it's more like, I don't know. I don't even remember anymore. It no longer makes sense to me. Um, it
all I
used to
know
be
is
close to like Easter or something, it would change, and then like in September or so it would go back, or I don't know, August, September, something.
yep.
It no longer does that.
And I just pulled it up. The current UTC time, as of recording right this moment, is 7:10 a.m., which means that I am currently... I'm
Friends that
currently...
live in both Brisbane and Perth. Go figure that one out.
It is
One of them I went to school with.
It means that we are currently at 4 UTC.
I'm not.
Well, we will be starting at 4 UTC, which sucks.
Which is
Guys,
not
just
be
look.
anywhere near what Europe is doing. Just deal.
Yeah, folks, we know how to split time zones into 15-degree slices on a globe. It's not that hard.
To.
Cut it the fuck out.
When you have people that are from Brisbane, Perth, and Central Australia, Brisbane is actually an hour ahead of Perth. However, in the middle, it's in a 30-minute increment.
Yeah, well,
with that one.
We've also got PEI that's like half an hour ahead also, so that's all kinds of stupid.
Yeah, and I know people who strictly observe Sabbath, and it just depends on when the sun goes down if you're in California or you're where I'm at in the time of the year. When it's dark, your ass is home.
Fair enough.
At sundown, even on a Friday at 3 o'clock.
Stephanie's also pointed out, that's my time. I just rely on YouTube to tell me what time to tune in. Yeah, sorry, it is the way that it is. But in any case, yeah, we are going to go ahead and wrap over here. I'm going to make it real quick for us. And guys, really, really quickly then, if you would please. Tech, any last item very quickly?
Not off the top of my head. That hasn't been said at the moment. That wouldn't devolve into a longer conversation.
Fair. And my legs appreciate that. All right, bitch. What very quick last thing.
It is currently 1:12 a.m. where my ass is sitting. And just fuck all of this shit. It deserves it.
No, that's fair.
And I know a certain person, and you know who it is too, that can just fuck off and die. I'm over it. And I won't tell you who that is. It's a secret.
Oh, I've got a couple of ideas. And as far as I'm concerned, the bunch of them I'm thinking of.
Yeah, several would apply, but just pick one.
No, I'm not going to limit myself that much.
Yeah, that's a hard choice. I don't even have one this week. Just fuck all the things with a flaming cactus sideways. And leave me alone. I'm doing my thing and dancing because I like disco. And so did my daddy. Those weird song requests you've been seeing? Thank you, Daddy. I will always love the original Lady Marmalade and just deal. Or Marmalade, or however you want to pronounce it.
I pronounce
Lady Marmalade?
Disco.
Yeah, Patti LaBelle.
So we'll go ahead. We'll call it a night. Everybody, thank you very much for being with us. For my part, for what to close on, like I said at the start of the show, man, we'll get through it. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy. But we'll get through it together. And for a lot of the stuff, I am of two minds. I don't want governmental services that end up being for the public's good, long-term good, to be gone away with.
Yeah, same.
But let's also try to understand that this gets really, really dicey. Because if we citizens step up to do the job that's being cut, that can just as easily reinforce the whole, well, if these people are just going to go ahead and do it for free, what the hell do we have to pay these people for to do it?
But I did stumble across an actual good news thing accidentally today.
Make it quick.
I will. Where I'm from, I found out that someone there is actually putting together a facility and rehabbing it for homeless veterans. You know where I came from. Can you imagine that happening? But it is. That's wonderful. Memphis, Tennessee, thank you. You finally did good.
Like I said,
I mean, other than producing me, I'm pretty good too.
it won't be easy, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
get through together.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, if you collapse over the finish line, it's just as good as running across it. Just get through.
This is my third journal, and it says Memories. No, it's my second one. Memories Volume 2. Right there at my desk.
You
As
lie.
I think of something.
You lie.
Oops.
It
I got
said,
confused.
it says musings. You're welcome.
Does it? I forgot. Yes, it does say Musings Volume 2.
The lady is losing her mind. Don't tell her.
Too late. We already know. She's done slid off that cracker years ago.
So, everybody, thank you very much for being with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives. You got something to think about for the week ahead. Hopefully, only 1 week. I don't intend to take another week off for a little while, so just bear with us as we're going.
Yeah, and I'm probably not going to be on camera next week because I still have a stuffy nose. My throat's a little scratchy, and I'm going to be wearing my jammies.
Good
Who
call.
knows if I have pants? Well, yeah, I actually am going to have pants on because it's freaking cold here.
It'll
We
be
just had a snowstorm from hell, but from looking and peeping out the weather, it looks like we might have daffodils showing up maybe next week or the week after, which is pretty cool.
We'll see how that works out. Live
Yeah.
chat, folks. Stephanie, Lexa, Roxy, I know that you're over there. Who the hell else was over there before? Witness protection. Know that you were there
Yeah,
earlier.
I saw them.
Thank you. And Io, thinking about you. You
Thank
take
you,
care of
ma'am.
yourself.
Mhm.
Very much.
Always.
Take care of yourself. Brigid, glad you're able to make it.
Oh,
Cool to
me
see you
too.
for a
This was
change.
fun.
Um,
Yeah, I'm smiling. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good week. And you got anybody specific that you want to just go ahead and drop a real quick FU to?
Not particularly, other than Doge and Trump and all that bullshit, but we saw this coming years ago, or I did. Just, and people who are so wanting this and enjoying it, y'all go get fucked too. I do not like you. You're not my people, and you hurt me. I don't appreciate being hurt, and you know it. All of you. And if you don't know, you're going to find out. Guess who's here?
Fair enough.
The bitch, Brigid bitch. Getting her groove on. And it feels good.
You take care of yourself, hon. Thank you.
I will. I'm doing.
Tech, also for you. Thank you. And nobody else is going to understand this except you and I. I'm sorry I freaked you out. Thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
There's a thing that we both know about, and just yeah, thank you, man. You take care of yourself.
Yep, we'll do.
Yeah.
For all of you, if you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, as always, best place over on the Discord server. Link for that is over in the show notes. If you need a voice, if you need somebody to talk to, you need to vent, we're more than happy to be there. We can't promise to be there instantly, but if you send up a real quick, add everyone, hey, I need a voice, I need a shoulder, we'll be more than happy to do what we can as soon as we're able to. We're here for you. And I know, that sounds like Frasier talk, but really, what more can we say? We'll do our best for you. Other than that, just find us on various socials. You can find Holy Crap TV on various locations. Yes, it is still over on Facebook. How long that's going to be a thing is problematic at best, but we'll do what we can. Probably BlueSky is a little bit better choice anyway. And we'll see you back soon. So, till the next time we're together, for all of you, as always, I wish you each the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And for my lady, it is fast approaching 20 years, and I'm now 56, and I'm still in love. Well, Matane Fujin, I love you. I miss you. Sorry you couldn't be here for the birthday, but dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone. As always, good night.